Definitely.
There.
Do you want to sit?
There we go. No, I can stand down. Okay. Here's the clicker. All right.
So the topic is about data talent and creative recruitment. You have someone who has done a lot of fun work. Maybe that's a better way to describe it. We had discussions and I learned so much from her. So I'll let her run with this.
Hi. Carol Wilson, Director of Advanced Analytics. At Canada Post, I run a team of about 7 data scientists. We have senior data scientists, which not only have the technical skills, but they also have the business knowledge because they've been in business for at least 3 years. And the junior data scientists are often hired right out of university. So I'm going to go through like kind of what our process is for trying to select a data scientist to join our team. Because I've been doing this for hiring data scientists for about 12 years now and had some failures and had some great successes. So I've kind of come up with this process that I'm really liking, but I also modify it every time I learn something new, every time I go through. So our team does advanced analytics for whatever department within Canada Post that needs some advanced analytics. Before I became director, the data scientists were mainly doing just queries, like pulling data. But we've changed that. We've had a growth, which is another talk I give about how we've gone from descriptive statistics to predictive and prescriptive analytics. So now we focus on predictive and prescriptive. So we're doing simulations, we're doing time series models, a lot of machine learning. So this is kind of like how we're set up. So I have data scientists. The junior ones report to the senior. This is my evolution model of what we've been through. So you can see how I've tried to, and really this came about by having a vision early on that when I first joined the team and took over this team of data scientists, they're not doing everything they could do. So I mapped out where I wanted us to be. And over the last 5-6 years, we're really happy with where we're sitting up in prescriptive analytics. So one of the challenges that I have is when I hire, we put it out on LinkedIn and we put it out everywhere, and we get a lot of applicants. The last one I did, we had over 500 applicants. So in my mind, it's not like there's not that skill set that's out there. There's a lot of the skills, because a lot of people are going through university and taking machine learning courses and learning all these technical skills. They know SQL, they know Python. But how do I get the person that is going to be the right fit for mine? So there's a lot that are there, but one thing I look through when I'm scanning is a lot of them are unqualified for the job I want. Like I get ETL specialists. Well, we don't do our own ETL. That's the technology company that moves data around. I want people that they need to mention machine learning, Python, SQL, some kind of time series or random forest. Give me some examples of what that. So I'm scanning these resumes really quickly. So if you're ever looking for a job, make sure these things like pop out, because you're only getting like 15 seconds of my time as I'm scanning. MBAs, I'll say. If they have an MBA, they better have something else with it, because the MBAs in Canada Post are usually somewhere else. But I have to be open-minded, as I heard from earlier, like the kind of traditional things, like, because I did statistics in grad school, and I can't just look for that. There's brand new names of courses that are coming up that were not available back then. So it's really the skills that I'm looking for. High salary expectations. I get a lot of this. They all think they're going to come in as a junior data scientist and make over $100,000 a year. Not at Canada Post. So, and I think that is possibly a lot of universities saying this is the skill set that's really wanted out there, and you're going to make lots of money and all this. If you're looking to be a millionaire, probably being a data scientist is not the way to go. So I'm looking for people that have, I know it's hard for them, especially going out into the business where they're just coming out with their master's or PhD, to put down what their salary expectation is. They really have no idea. Just don't put it so high, because putting 150 grand in as what you want to make, I'm not even going to look at you any further. So, but putting it low, saying you want to make 50 grand, which is way too low, then that's not going to rule you out. I'm just going to say, oh, they don't know what I'm offering. But I'm not going to waste my time talking to someone who thinks they're going to walk in and make 150 grand a year. So what I'm looking for is someone that really values the job security. Because I know when I came out of grad school and looking for a job, I was in Southern Ontario, I went to McMaster, and everybody had a master's or PhD that was applying for the same jobs that I had. So I went to the Maritimes, where I was a little more of a unicorn, and got working out there. And that's where I'm from, so it was very good. But I remember getting that first job and having a permanent full-time job after having contract position after contract position. I was just so thankful. And I stayed with that company for 13 years. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for, someone that really wants the job security of working for a company like Canada Post, because we try to retain people. Like, we're not, really don't want to do layoffs or anything like that. We're not a startup, so we're looking for the people that want something stable. What I find is really a challenge is they're coming out of university from various areas, and I'm not sure what their fundamentals are like. Yeah, they can program in Python, they can do SQL, but do they understand, what margin of error actually is? Do they understand when to do test statistics and when not? Like what a random sample versus a convenient sample is. And I really have been disappointed by the kind of fundamental knowledge that has come out of the university. So often when they join my team, they go through Carol's Stats 101 course. And because I'm really good at the fundamentals, I can't do what they do, the fancy stuff, because it's gotten way more fancy than when I was a data scientist. But I understand the fundamentals of data very well, and so I try to teach that. But understanding, like, someone that has critical thinking and logical thinking, and the talk we just listened to about ChatGPT, you have to look at that critically just like you look at everything else critically. Do you agree with that? Do you want to do your own individual research to make sure you agree with the answer that ChatGPT gave you? I think ChatGPT can help us with a lot of things. It's great at finding errors in code that you're staring at it, you can't find the error. Throw it in ChatGPT, it finds it just like that. And you go, oh yeah, that's what it is. So, but I'm looking for logical thinkers. So that's one thing I want to test as that goes through the hiring process. Job hopper. I love this picture. This guy's like so sneaky, and he's been in the job for like a year. He's got Canada Post on his resume now, and now he can go and get a big job somewhere else, where we have spent so much time and energy trying to educate him on the business and learning all our systems that what I really don't like seeing in resumes is someone who's been a year here, 6 months here, and they've only been in their current job for 3 months, but they're looking for another job. I don't like that. But if that is your resume, because maybe you're going like I was, term position, and you can't find a pull, put that somewhere. So this was a term position. The contract ended, so that's why I left. I didn't leave because I'm always thinking the grass is greener somewhere else. And positive and negative bias, I personally am less concerned about negative bias than I am positive bias. My team is from all over the world, and I try not to be negatively biased by where they went to school and all that. What I worry about for myself is a positive bias toward, oh, they went to McMaster. Oh, I like them, right? So, or they're from the Maritimes, where I'm from. Oh, I like them. Like, things that should have nothing to do with my decision, I worry about that positive bias creeping in. So I wanted to come up with a process that got rid of not only the negative bias, but also the positive bias that you can have. And also, candidates reach out to me all the time through LinkedIn. And my process actually, because I want to be friendly, and if a student reaches out to me on LinkedIn and wants to chat about how to become a data scientist or whatever, I love chatting to students. But then when they apply for the job, they think they have an in with me. So my process is trying to take that away and take away, even if I build a relationship with them, I want to take away the feeling that I'm letting them down, right, by not hiring them. They have the same chance as everyone else. So that's built into the process as well. So I'll talk about this process that I came up with, and there are new challenges at the end that I'll get into that I haven't figured out how to address, and maybe some of you can help me try to address them. But in the applicant screening, this is what I kind of said before, I'm looking for experience with the cloud, because we have gone from Azure, now we're on AWS, but I don't care what cloud they worked on. Some experience with the cloud is really helpful, experience with predictive models. They're using those keywords like Python, R, SQL. I remember when I went for my first job, and it was in market research where I started, because I had statistics, and I was hired as their statistician for a market research company. And one of the things they told me they were using FoxPro. They were using SPSS, which I had not used. I had used SAS. And so they had all the, and I didn't know, but I remember in the interview I said, I've learned a lot of different program language, and I've learned a lot of different systems. I have confidence in myself that I can learn a new one. And if someone says that to me, I go, yeah, you've learned a lot of different ones. I don't care if you used ours. You know how to learn new programs. The salary expectations I talked about, I just screen out the ones that want to make more than I do. Like, that's not going to happen. And scanning for keywords. But so that narrows it down to, okay, I started with like, let's say 300. I want to get down to like 40, and I have my senior data scientist help me with this, because that's a lot of resumes to go through. So we kind of split them up by alphabetically or whatever, and we come up with the recommendations for doing the online quizzes. So we have a stats quiz, which I wrote because stats is my hobby, my love. So we asked them to have a closed book, and this is one of the problems I'll get in with, but they only have 10 minutes to do this stats quiz. They can take longer, but that might count against them. These are pretty easy. If you understand statistics, you should be able to answer these questions within a few minutes of reading the question. And I think I might have some examples in here. But if anyone wants to see my stats quiz, I'll send it to you, and you can do it online. And then we have a timed SQL and Python coding quiz, but they get an hour, because we're not looking for the fastest code you can write. We're looking for the most optimized code you can write. So they also do this and send it in. But especially with ChatGPT, you can find the answers to all these really quickly by throwing them in ChatGPT or some kind of chat box. So what we're doing now is we're reviewing their answers when they're in the technical interview with the data scientist, which I will talk about later, because they have to prove to us they actually understand why they wrote it this way, which helps a little bit. This is my favorite part, the blind case study. So this is where I solve a lot of those problems about relationships that I built over LinkedIn, or maybe they met me at a conference and they go, oh, I really want to work with your team. This blind case study solves that, in that from the ones that actually did okay on the coding and did okay on the stats test, no one's ever gotten 100% yet. So I'm pretty tough in my stats. But what I'm looking for is that we can work with that. We can work with that level of coding knowledge. We can work with that level of stats. They have enough fundamentals. If they didn't understand the difference between a convenient sample and an attempted census, I can tell them in 2 minutes what the difference is, and then hopefully they know it forever. So what we select about 10 to 12 to do a blind case study. We're not just going by the quiz answers, we're also looking at the resumes again, saying this looks like a good fit, and we like the resume. So we select 10 to 12, and we send them out a business case, basically, with some data, and they have to create an executive level, and this is where a lot of them fall flat, an executive level presentation reporting what you found. So we tell them that pretend you're going to present this to executives, not to data people. So you need to be able to give them the kind of information and the business answers to this. So they do include their Jupyter notebook with all the markdown, so they can explain. So the data scientists, I give that to my data scientists to review, to make sure like what they did code-wise was good, but I'm looking at the executive level presentation. And the things I'm looking for that really are the downfall of many of them is when they spend the first few slides talking about how they cleaned the data. I love talking about how they clean the data, all the wonky things they found about. They can talk to me about that when they become a data scientist, but executives don't care. The first couple of slides should be, what the business problem was, a little bit of the background, and what we found, what the big win was that we found. And then you say, and this is how we did it, right? And you open that up. But the executives are going to lose interest if you don't tell them what they're going to get out of it right in the first few slides. So I remember one of my senior data scientists, the first time he marked these with me, he went through the process too, but the first time he marked them, he said, Carol, what if everybody gets an A? And I go, oh, because their resumes look really good, they did good on the quizzes, oh, they're all going to be fantastic, he thought. It is hilarious to see the kind of case studies that we get in. You can put them in 3 piles, like, I'm not even going to look at this further, and the ones that are okay, and then you get a couple that are excellent and you're really impressed by. Usually just maybe 2 out of 10, you say, oh, they know how to present data, and they know how to do a story. And I loved the presentation yesterday about storytelling with graphics and that. It was really good. So, so they have 10 days to complete it, and some of them drop out at this point. They go, I'm not going to put in all this effort into this job that I may not get. But a lot of them do, because it's really competitive out there. People are trying to find jobs. And another reason I like the blind case study is that they're putting in the effort to work for Canada Post. They're invested now. They want to work for Canada Post. They're not going to be jumping ship in 3 months. So my absolute favorite is the reveal. So they're blind because I have my admin assistant actually send out the invitations to the 12 and give them a secret 3-digit number. So when they pass in their case study in a PowerPoint and then their Jupyter Notebook, their name is nowhere on there. It's only their number. And so I mark it, and the data scientists mark it, and then we get together and we come up with a final mark for them after we discuss them all. And usually we might have 1 or 2 A's, we might have 1 A+, and we get a lot of C's and C- and that kind of thing. So then we ask Diane, my admin assistant, to tell us who's who. And that's my favorite part, because I'm often rooting for that McMaster alum. I want them to be on my team. But hey, I can go back to them later, or people I've made relationships with on LinkedIn, and say, I'm sorry, we marked it blind and you just weren't one of the top 3, right? It kind of gets me off the hook in a way that, I can still feel, I was really rooting for you. Sorry. Because it's hard to say no to people that you really like, and you kind of got their hopes up and then they didn't get there. So we select, sometimes the top 3 or the top 4 to 5 for the interview process. There's the technical interview, which is with my senior team, and they will talk about codes. They'll have them go through their quizzes and talk about that. They'll talk about what they do in a day as being a data scientist at Canada Post to try and sell them on what our job is. And this is really I put a lot of weight into what the senior data scientists go, yeah, I can work with this person. They're bringing new skills that we don't have into the process, which is also important because we want variety. So they do that, and then the executive interview is one that I do with them, as well as bring in a couple of other directors from the team. And this is where, it's certainly less technical. We want to tell them about Canada Post, the kind of what the business problems are that we're having. You've probably seen them in the news. We got to make some money. So we talk to them more, and we see their fit as far as really their poise, their ability to speak. When we're interviewing for a senior data scientist, that person has to be able to answer questions succinctly in everyday business language without over-talking. we get a lot of candidates that just keep talking long after they've finished answering the question, but they don't know when to stop. So that's a big negative. So I often give them feedback on when you feel you've answered the question, just be quiet. If we have follow-up questions, we'll ask, right? And I also share the vision that we want to be focused on machine learning, prescriptive analytics. I want to get a lot more into simulations. If we do this, this will happen. Like, have decision makers play with the data and be able to put in new numbers to see, okay, how does that impact our volumes? So evaluating the communication skills is very important, especially for the seniors. For the juniors, I'm looking for skills. I can teach them the business and also mentor them on how to do better presentations. But I love the Monty Hall problem. Can you raise your hand if you're aware of what the Monty Hall problem is? I just want to see. Okay, well, just a couple. Okay, so I'll tell you what the Monty Hall problem is. And we tell them before the interview that they are going to be asked to explain what the problem is and explain what the answer is and why that's the answer. So they know several days before the interview, they can go online and research this problem. And we told them you need to do it in your own words without visuals. So I'll do it in my own words without visuals. So Let's Make a Deal was a TV show way back even before my time where a host who was called Monty Hall, he invited a contestant to look at 3 doors. And behind one of the doors was a great prize, like a car. And behind the other 2 doors was like a goat, or something you don't want. I wouldn't mind a little baby goat. I like baby goats. But anyway, there was 2 goats. And so Monty would ask them to pick a door. Just pick one of the 3. So the contestant would say, okay, I picked door number 1, because, I don't have anything to go on, door number 1. And Monty says, okay, I'm going to open up one of the other 2 doors. And so I'm going to open up door number 2, and it reveals a goat. So now that I've shown you that the car is not behind door number 2, do you want to stay with door number 1, or do you want to go to door number 3? And so now the contestant is often thinking, well, now it's 50-50. Do I stay with my door, or do I switch? I know it's not number 2. But the answer is they should always switch. Statistically, they should always switch doors. Because now they have a 2/3 of a chance of winning the car if they switch, and only 1/3 if they stay with door number 1. And the reason for this is that Monty knows where the car is. So when he's opening a door, so 1/3 of the time you've picked the car, it's under door number 1. So he can open door number 2 or door number 3, right? In that case, you have no more information. But if 2 out of 3 times you have picked a door with a goat behind it, and the car is under one of the others. So Monty has to pick the door that doesn't have the car, or else the game's going to be over, and they go, oh, whoops, I showed you where the car was. So he knows where the car is. So if I pick door number 1 and the car is not behind door number 1, it's actually behind door number 3, he has to pick door number 2. Which means that 2/3 of the time, the car is behind door number 3. So that's why you have to switch. So that is what I'm looking for as an explanation from them. And I understand the problem very well, but what's great is that the other directors that I invite, they're not data people. They might not have heard of the Monty Hall problem. They can listen to this explanation, and I can ask them later, so do you understand it now? And a lot of them will go, no, I'm so confused. And so we've had some excellent explanations of the Monty Hall problem and some very confusing explanations. But this gives us an idea on if the person can communicate something that's counterintuitive. It feels like it should be 50-50 after he shows you a door, but it's actually not, because Monty knows where the car is. And so I think of it as kind of a degrees of freedom problem, where he has more degrees of freedom when you've actually picked the right door than he does when you have not picked the right door. He is constrained. He has to open up a particular door, and that's 2/3 of the time. So 2/3 of the time, Monty's basically telling you, the car is here, right? 1/3 of the time, you have no more information. But I'll take those odds. So anyway, so that's what we do with the Monty Hall problem in here. And then the final selection, of course, just the normal thing, the checks and stuff. But this is another thing that really is successful, offer of feedback. So I contact all those that went through the interview process, and even the ones that did the stats tests, I show them what the right answer was, and I explain the answers to them. Not in person, I usually do that with an email. But for the ones that went through the interview, I meet with them and tell them what we liked about their interview and what they should work on. They really appreciate that as well, because it really gives them confidence going into their next interview. And just one thing before I finish up, the farm system, what we're looking at doing is all these other departments within Canada Post want their own data scientist, but they don't know how to hire a data scientist. So what we're starting to do now is I hire them, they train with my team for the first year or two, and they may work with that team a lot, like do projects for them, but then eventually they move over and report to that team, and they're their data scientists. But they built up the relationship with my team and our way of doing things and our training, and they also have a close relationship with other data scientists, because you don't want to be the only data scientist in your group, because there's a lot of decisions to be made now that things are very complicated. You want someone who understands the data, and you want to be able to talk through. So they can always go back, and my buddy at Advanced Analytics, I can explain this to them. So anyway, so that's what we're trying to do. I think it'll work well, and that will give us a certain level of literacy, hopefully. Thank you very much. There. Oh.
So we'll entertain some questions based on the time we have left.
Yeah. There's a question there.
There's a question
okay.
over there.
Can you hear? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So I have questions related to the retention side of things, your retention strategies from a people leader perspective. Like loyalty right now doesn't really exist from both a company and from an employee side of things. And they're told every 2 years or so to leave so that they can get incremental salary increases. Mm-hmm. And from my perspective, you might be underpaying your data scientists. So how do you retain them?
Yeah, that is a challenge, and what I try to do is make sure they understand their trajectory. So the junior data scientists, I say, I'm looking for you to become a senior data scientist within 2 or 3 years, and this is what you need to do to be able to do that. So they have that kind of carrot that they're looking for. So I'm hoping that that shows them that there is growth within Canada Post. I also, one thing as a manager, I think my role is to back my team. I am their biggest supporter. I try to protect them from the stress, and I say, if there's any stress, if a client's giving you stress, put the stress on me. Take the stress off of them, because I know when I was a data scientist, I didn't want all the emails and the phone calls when I'm trying to concentrate and work on this. So that's one thing, I try and make it a less stressful environment. But I know that it is challenging, because being a data scientist at Canada Post, everyone knows what Canada Post is. That's great to have on your resume. So yeah, I worry about that. We are currently trying to get our salaries more competitive in the industry, which they're not bad, but we want to have it more so we can retain them. But yeah, it's mainly making them definitely feel appreciated and taking the stress away from them, so they get that life balance. And also we work from home, and that's a big plus too. Data scientists love to work from home. Okay.
We'll take one more question. I know there's a lot of good questions. We'll take one more question because
Hello.
coming
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Just around your salary expectations. So you don't treat people who think they should earn $50,000 the same as the one that think they should get $150,000 when they both have the same problem. They don't know their worth. So you're throwing out those people at the top, which might be a great employee, but they just don't know what salary they should command.
Yeah, it depends. Like if it's really high, and it depends if they're not in the workforce yet, I'll give them a little more of a buy. But if they're in the workforce and they're at a different company and they're saying they want to make that much, I assume that it's not a lot more than what they're making now. So I'm thinking I can't afford them. So if they're within like 20, 30 grand over what we can offer, then they might stay. But I also send it out to HR to contact them and say, okay, this is kind of our salary range. Should we go any further? I don't have that conversation with them, which is good. But often I find the ones coming right out of school, their expectations sometimes are like really low or really high. Like they're, you know, but yeah, they're often really happy with what we can pay, though. Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Should we take one more question? Everybody's...
Okay,
Let's just take one more question, and we'll break for lunch after.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Well, it's linked to the other question the first person made, like about the retention. Like, what's more or less the tenure of your, well, if you can tell us, of course, the tenure of your junior data scientist, and what will be like the rate of your junior data scientist becoming senior data science within your team?
What will be the what? What I'm looking for to have them?
No, the tenure, like how long they last, let's say, a junior data scientist within Canada Post.
Yeah, so, well, the junior data scientists, if they're hired right out of university with a PhD or master's usually, I usually tell them it'll be about 3 years before you move to a senior. And then the senior data scientists, they also have a trajectory in that I have one chief data scientist who basically is my right arm. So, you know, they can go toward that. But I mentor the juniors a lot, even though they report to a senior. I also mentor them, saying, you know, this is communication is what you have to work on, understanding the business, being able to do a presentation that is, because our senior data scientists meet with executives. The juniors usually don't, but we try to give them a little opportunity to meet with my boss and that kind of thing to give them some experience.
Yeah, but do the juniors last the 3 years within your team?
Yeah.
Perfect.
2 or 3 years as a junior. When I first started, they were all senior data scientists, and they were all just doing queries on data. They were not doing any machine learning, and I'm going, these are not data scientists. So I have a brand new team, and yeah, they last 2 or 3 years. I rarely have anybody leave within 2 years. And often their reason for leaving, because they're often really happy in the department, one moved to Europe, because he wanted to be a musician. He was also did music, and another one wanted to get into sustainability thing because that's what she's really passionate about. So she wanted to go work for something. So it's often not a salary issue why they leave. I've never had a salary issue be the reason they leave.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Okay.
much, Carol.
Thank you.
We're going to break for lunch. We're going to be back, and Carol's going to be back with us again. You know,
Oh,
she's
yeah,
part of a
in a
panel
panel.
at 1:30. So please go, enjoy your lunch, converse between each other. We're going to have Jonathan also and Zach, and we're going to be having a cool discussion. I'll leave it till then. Run, get your lunch.
Okay, good. Can you
Yeah,
go
yeah,
down first?
yeah.